Welcome to Legacy Therapy, the podcast that will teach you, in bite-sized chunks, how to leave a stress-free legacy so loved ones can focus on people, not paperwork, when you become ill or pass away. Here is your host and financial advocate, Stacey Golden-Lisnock.
Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of Legacy Therapy, Planning Techniques for a Stress-Free Legacy. And today we have a special guest that's going to talk to us about Medicare fraud, a very interesting topic and one that's really happening a lot to a lot of seniors in our country right now. Micki Nozaki. And so Micki, I'm going to introduce her here. Micki is the director of the California Health Advocates Healthcare Protection Program, known as the Senior Medicare Patrol. The federally funded program provides Medicare fraud prevention, education, and outreach throughout the state to older adults, their families, and caregivers, as well as persons with disabilities. Prior to assuming her current role, Micki spent many years in the private sector. Healthcare fraud is elder abuse, and Micki is deeply passionate about protecting older adults and persons with disabilities from being victimized by criminal fraudsters and scammers. She asks that we all do our part to protect those most vulnerable among us. Welcome, Micki, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. I know I've been in on a couple of your webinars that you've done that have been part of what you do for a living, which is to help us all be aware and how to protect against Medicare fraud. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Stacey. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this really important information. You know, most people don't know that fraudsters and scammers steal billions of dollars every year from the Medicare trust funds, which takes a toll on all of us as taxpayers. But worse, if a scammer gets a hold of your Medicare number or your Social Security number, your Medicare benefits may be denied. Medicare fraud is really serious. And that's where the California Senior Medicare Patrol comes in, because we help all Californians, beneficiaries, families, caregivers, all know about healthcare fraud and scams and what they can do to protect themselves so they're not victimized by the fraudsters and the scammers.
Wow. I know it's a scary thing, and I know that seniors are very, very vulnerable because they want to believe, and the people are so believable. I know what you were saying too, and I know you'll get into it, is like how this happens. So what current scams could folks be aware of so that they don't fall victim?
Sure, yes. Well, one of the scams that we're getting a lot of calls about is what we call the telemedicine backbrace scam. Now, this scam involves criminal fraudsters who sit in call centers. It could be in Texas, the Philippines, India, and they call seniors every day, all day, hundreds and hundreds of calls. And when they get a hold of a senior, they lie to them and they say, we're from Medicare, and Medicare wants you to have a free back brace. And all you need to do to get that free back brace is to give us your Medicare number off of your little red, white, and blue card. Well, unfortunately, seniors pick up the phone, even though we want them not to, and they give out this information because, as you say, they believe that the caller is actually from Medicare. Right. And so many people don't understand all the complexities of Medicare. So they believe this person and they give up their Medicare number. Well, what happens, the telemarketer is actually working for the base company. And there are an awful lot of unlawful medical equipment companies out there.
Oh,
so
I didn't realize that's something I've already learned right now. I didn't realize that there are real companies that are promoting this. I thought that they were people making these scams and then sending you just crappy, back braces or something, but they're actually the company that manufactures them that's doing
or that sells them. Absolutely.
Oh my
Because you
gosh.
see, in order to get money from Medicare,
Mhm.
you need to be enrolled as a legitimate provider of healthcare services or supplies.
Wow.
So these unlawful companies are actually enrolled in the Medicare system and are allowed to bill, but they're doing illegal things. So they steal a beneficiary's Medicare number.
Mhm.
They may, in fact, send this poor beneficiary who has absolutely no idea they've been tricked. They might send them a cheap brace, maybe a shoulder brace or a back brace. But in the meantime, they're taking that lady or man's Medicare number and billing Medicare for thousands and thousands of dollars of expensive equipment. So what we tell people is, number one, you shouldn't be picking up the phone if you don't recognize that number. Number two, Medicare will never call you and ask you for your Medicare number. They already have it.
Right.
So if
and
you
and
need
they're not in the
medical,
business of promoting, like they're not going to be calling you and offering you products and services over the phone, right? It's your insurance, right? Wouldn't you be calling them and say or calling your doctor and saying I have a back problem?
exactly.
And
That's what we tell people. If
right.
you need some sort of medical equipment, you go to your doctor, because the
Mhm.
only way that Medicare will legitimately pay for it is
Mhm.
if a doctor authorizes it and you need it for medical necessity. Absolutely.
Wow.
So that's the biggest scam going today.
Yeah. So how does this affect families in the long run when they're dealing with a senior? Does it affect them as far as their time and their efforts and maybe does it even shorten that senior's life when they realize, or maybe they don't realize? Do they know they're getting scammed? Or how do they know?
The only way they would know is when they review their medical statements, like their Medicare summary notice or their explanation of benefits. And I got to tell you, so many people, once they do that, they know that they've been tricked. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. They don't even want to share the information with their families. They feel so stupid. And they tell us that they feel like they've been violated because they've
Sure.
been lied to, and they've been tricked into giving up information that is absolutely should be private, but
Right.
they disclosed it.
Wow. Yeah, that could be terrible. Are
And
there
that's why
any?
I say it's elder abuse. It makes people feel horrible.
Right.
And quite frankly, if your Medicare number is compromised and some illicit provider or supplier actually uses your Medicare number unlawfully, it goes on the Medicare beneficiary's record. So let's say you give up your Medicare number to a fraudster. They charge Medicare for a wheelchair. Now, you don't get the wheelchair, but the biller, the fraudster, gets, let's say, $5,000 from Medicare for a
Oh,
wheelchair.
that's a
Yeah.
nice wheelchair.
And it goes on that
Wow.
person's record. So let's
Wow.
say down the road, that poor
Mhm.
beneficiary needs the wheelchair and
Right.
tries to get one covered by Medicare.
Mhm.
Medicare is going to deny it. That's victimization. That's elder abuse.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is there any residual that goes into like say somebody has passed away, could they still use and charge, or does it cut it off but Medicare knows they've passed away?
That's a great question. And we have had many, many calls where the daughter or granddaughter or grandson or son of a beneficiary who has sadly passed away, they'll start looking at some of the Medicare summary notices or explanation of benefits and find out that, oh my gosh, this person's Medicare number has been used to bill Medicare even after their loved one passed away. Yeah.
Geez, that should be a huge red flag. I wonder why the government can't crack down on this, since they know the companies, right? You could probably look at the records and see who's charging extraordinary amounts of claims.
Yeah. And they do. Medicare does have contractors and law enforcement entities that actually do try to stem the tide, but it's always playing catch up.
Yes.
Almost always playing catch up. There are intelligent systems that law enforcement has, and they do data mining to see, let's say, what providers are billing the most or the highest amounts. And they do look into these, but most of the time we just cannot prosecute our way out of fraud. We have to educate people so that they don't fall victim in the first place.
Okay, well, so really what you're saying, it's a pretty easy fix if we could just get our seniors to not pick up the phone and give out their personal Medicare information.
Right.
That would close the door right there on those scammers, but we can't seem to get to that.
It certainly would. But, they're as you said at the beginning, seniors are very trusting. And it's interesting. The Federal Trade Commission actually came out with some data showing that the telephone is the most common method used by scammers to target people over the age of 70. And the only way that scammers use to target people over the age of 80. Why? Wow. Because, and especially in this pandemic environment, people are isolated. They're hunkered down in their homes. They're lonely. They don't have people to talk to. And boy, the scammers know it. They are trained to get information from people in any way, shape, or form that they can.
Wow, that is just something else. I wish that we didn't have that going on. We have so many things like that in the country that just seem like they should not be here amongst us, but they are.
And that's why it's so important for our program to get out. Our program is responsible for educating throughout the state of California, which is a task in of itself. But it's so important, and we do webinars, we do presentations all the time, unfortunately, only virtual right now until we can get back into facilities and senior centers. But we do offer this education online. We're willing to do a presentation for anybody, any entity at all. And what we help people understand is that really we want them to look at it three ways. We want them to protect themselves. We want them to detect errors on their medical statements. And then we want them to report anything that looks suspicious. And they can report it directly to us at the Senior Medicare Patrol. Because when we hear about it, we can refer it on to law enforcement. That's the only way we're going to get the bad actors out of the system.
Yeah. And how do they get a hold of you? So how is it easy to do? How do they find you?
Absolutely. We have a toll-free hotline for the state of California. It's 855-613-7080. California Senior Medicare Patrol.
Great. So that's California. Are there other states that are doing the similar things?
Yes. Actually, the Senior Medicare Patrol is a national program, and it is grant funded by the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level. So every state in the United States and the 4 territories have their own Senior Medicare Patrol.
Wow. So you can't get away from it. Every state and every nook and cranny is having the same thing happen to their seniors then. So this is,
absolutely.
How much is this costing the federal government? Do you have a figure?
The federal government estimates that we lose between 60 and 90 billion dollars a year to fraud, waste, and abuse. I know it's almost unimaginable. It's about 10% of what the government spends on Medicare to provide health care for over 62 million beneficiaries. And if you think about it, 60 to 90 billion dollars, look at how much good that could do if it wasn't going to the criminals.
Sure. And from the recent statistics, I'm hearing that there's 10,000 new Medicare beneficiaries a day that are they're turning 65. Every day there's 10,000 new 65-year-olds, right, every day. So those are 10,000 a day more people that can be victimized.
Absolutely. That's why our education is so critical.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I know that, and I don't know if it's a nation thing, but I know in California, your Medicare card had your Social Security number as your Medicare card number or whatever.
Right.
So they changed that. It took them a long time, I know, seems like, but now everybody has different cards. But I know, and just from my own clients and what I've seen, they carry around everything. They don't get rid of anything. They keep that old card with their Social Security number right in their wallet. As soon as they open their wallet, you see it.
Yep.
And they do carry their Social Security cards too. I mean, these are things that we've been told over and over and over not to do. Right. And our seniors, who are the most vulnerable and most likely to possibly lose their wallets or have it lifted from them because they're just not as vigilant. They can't really, do. I notice these ladies sometimes in the grocery stores, they still walk away from their purses.
I know.
I had to ask, I had to walk up to one lady and tell her, look, I know you don't know me, but you're leaving your purse just here. Someone's going to take it. At least strap it in with the baby strap so that it's not so easily just grabbed and, run.
No, you're absolutely right. And it did take the government a long time. Medicare was established in 1965, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago that they actually removed that Social Security number from the card.
Right.
So now they have a random set of alpha and numeric characters. But please, I don't want anybody to think that just because the Social Security number was removed, that the random numbers and letters can't be compromised as well.
Well, that's what you're saying that they ask you for in order to bill. And so it's just as valuable as a Social Security number.
And what we tell people is treat your Medicare card as if it was a credit card. You're not going to give a stranger the numbers off of your credit card and your PIN. Right. So don't give a stranger the numbers and letters off your Medicare card.
As sweet and nice as they sound on the phone. Yeah. I just, what gets me is sometimes they do sound so sweet and nice. And it's like, how is it that those people can utilize their good nature, right? Because they can turn it on to actually be tricking these people. Do they all know that this is a scam? The people that are hired to call, are they aware that they're scamming, or do they really think they have a legitimate job? That they're just calling Medicare people, and maybe they got a job off Craigslist or something, and hey, your job is to call on these Medicare and offer them this program, and maybe they get trained like a real job. No?
Yeah. Well, I think you're giving people the benefit of the doubt.
I would love to.
Very well be that is the case, But boy, the unlawful equipment companies, they know that it's not right. That they know it's illegal for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so what else can we tell people about this stuff?
Well, COVID and the pandemic has actually opened up a whole array of scams where people are being tricked into giving up their Medicare number, sometimes their credit card numbers. One of the ways is when scammers actually masquerade as what they call COVID contact tracers. Now, we know from the media, the news, that contact tracing is one of the best ways that the health departments now are trying to stem the tide of this horrible pandemic. Yes. But the scammers know it too. So what they do is they will call up somebody and pretend to be a contact tracer, tell them that they have been exposed to somebody, and by way of scaring them, they will also try to get Medicare number, credit card numbers. They'll ask for any kind of private information in order to sell that information to other scammers.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. That's just a sad state of affairs. But as we know, it's as old as probably, I don't know, as soon as they thought of ways to not earn a living legitimately, they figure out they can steal, and this is a faceless crime. You don't know who the criminal is. Actually, you're not being mugged on the street, but you're being victimized, no less.
Absolutely. And a lot of the times the scammers are, not even from this country, which
Right.
makes it a lot more difficult to catch them.
Right.
A lot of the times, they will use a rotating number of telephone numbers so that if you capture a telephone number from a scammer, by the time you report it, they've moved on to another telephone number. So it's very, very difficult to catch these guys.
Sure. And they're getting smarter and smarter, I understand, where they're making the numbers look like local numbers
Oh, yeah.
to your
Yes,
area.
they know how to spoof, what they call spoofing telephone numbers. So if you pick up your phone and you look at the LED display, it could very well say Social Security Administration or Medicare, but it's typically not, because Medicare and Social Security, they're not going to call you. If they need to contact you, they'll contact you by U.S. mail.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This has been very informative. I really appreciate you taking the time, Micki, to enlighten everyone as to how we need to really protect those who are not in the know, as far as don't answer the phone if you don't know the number, never give out your personal information. I mean, those are things that, we unfortunately need to teach our elders, and sometimes they don't listen. Just like,
and that's why we actually expand our education beyond the consumer Medicare beneficiary themselves to families, caregivers. It makes a lot of sense. Grandchildren, they actually take care of their grandparents as well. So the real key messages, Stacey, if I might, Medicare will never contact you and ask you for your Medicare number.
Right.
Medicare will never call you and try to sell you anything. And Medicare will never come to your home. Any additional information, protect our most vulnerable. Remember, California Senior Medicare Patrol.
Excellent. Excellent. And can you say that number just one more time so people don't have to go all the way and search for it? Just at the end here.
Our toll-free number for the state of California is 855-613-7080. And thank you, Stacey.
Thank you. So if anybody out there thinks that they've been scammed, or their grandparent or their parent or somebody they know all of a sudden has deliveries of braces that they're normally selling you, right? Back braces or ankle braces or something. You need to really take a look then at their benefit statements and see if they're being billed. Exactly. Because I'm thinking most of the time Medicare recipients aren't really looking at those statements. I'm thinking that, well, it's not cost. I know it's not a bill that I have to pay. So, it's just, they don't probably even pay attention so much.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, at the amount. I know when I get my, what is it, when you go to the doctor and then you get the form back that tells you how much they billed the insurance. I always look, because I'm always fascinated to see what they've charged for a certain, procedure.
Right. Well, good for you that you are an interested and educated consumer.
Yeah, actually. All righty. Well, I will let you go, Micki. And again, thank you. And anybody that's interested to have their organization have you give a presentation, they can get a hold of you. Is that
absolutely?
Yeah. How would they get a hold of you?
That same telephone number works perfectly.
Okay.
855-613-7080.
Okay, perfect. All righty.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Stacey.
it. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. So everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of Legacy Therapy. And I also encourage you to take a look at the website, www.gotittogethernow at gotittogethernow.com. And you'll see what we've got going on there. We're teaching people that it's very important to have a stress-free legacy in your wake instead of leaving a huge mess for your family to take care of. And so it's very simple to do when you're not in a hurry, when you don't have a health crisis on your hands, and you have the time to actually take and look at everything that you have and get it so that your personal agent, which would be a friend, a family member, or somebody that's going to have to step in on your behalf so that they're aware of what's going on for you. So I appreciate it if you look there, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Legacy Therapy Podcast. If we hit it out of the park today and you learned at least one new thing to take action on in your own quest to planning the best legacy possible, then be sure to tell your friends, subscribe, and rate and review wherever you get your podcast. The show notes will provide the sites and information that were discussed today. You can get more great tips, resources, and inspiration by visiting our website, legacytherapypodcast.com.